we're in this together. Like, that's a huge part of this to me, is that I want to feel connected and I want to be open to my scene partner and I want to feel like generous with them. And I want to like give them everything I possibly can. Like, that's like a huge part of the work is the process. Like, it's not just the end game. It's like what the feeling that we have while we're doing it. And so to take that away from your teammate because you feel like, I can't handle this. It's like, then don't be an actor, because it's all about connecting and telling the story with other people.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Justine Lupe is an actor. She sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work.
I want to tell you how I came to your work, which is interesting. I was watching Younger because Miriam Shore was going to come on the show. And the Jade episode came on where you play Jade. And I turned, I guess I wasn't paying much attention at that point. But I turned because I was like, wait, who is this person? I looked you up, I saw your name, I'm like, I don't know her. I usually don't do that because usually actors I usually have this suspension of disbelief usually, where they're just the people. Like I'm not, even though I'm obsessed with acting, I get lost in the characters.
Yeah.
I had J. Smith Cameron on before Secession. I tried Secession back then. I didn't get into it. I went back to it. I did not understand why I didn't get into it because I became obsessed with it. But when you came on, I had the same thing happen where I was like, who is this person? I look it up. I'm like, why do I know that name? Oh, it's because I looked her up a couple months before that. And that has never happened before, where I don't know an actor and then I don't know her again. It's like I was fooled again into looking. And I was trying to figure out what this is. You imbue these characters with a nuance that has like roots that you don't usually see. Like, so they feel alive. A lot of times these are quirky characters. And sometimes people just ride that quirk. But you, like, there's some kind of roots. And I don't understand it, but that's what made me want to have you on. And then it definitely wanted to have you on when I saw Mr. Mercedes, because it was the same kind of thing then, where that was a kind of character where you could really just play that oddity. Mm-hmm. And we can enjoy it kind of. But by the time I saw that, I knew you. and in fact, I was watching it because you were in it.
Aww.
So this is a big preamble. So what I'd really like to do is just start with, what was the moment that made you want to take this endeavor seriously, this acting endeavor? Starting from there.
I mean, I always loved it. Always. I go back to like childhood tapes and just seeing how most of the content is me and my brother making movies together. In basically the library of my childhood, I'd say about 80% goes to just me creating these little videos with my brother. So I always loved make-believe, always loved writing, creating, acting in these plays. My brother is now a filmmaker as well. So it's kind of funny that we both grew into these parts that we had from a very young age. But then I went to a theater school for middle school. So I always did like summer theater. There's a Jewish community center. I'm not Jewish, but they had like a great theater program like for kids. And I did that when I was really young. And then I went to a arts magnet school called Denver School of the Arts in Denver, Colorado, that has middle school through high school. So it was 7 years of theater. And I had moments in that education where I kind of wavered in and out of like, do I want to be going to this school because I wanted a normal high school experience? And I always came back to like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I got into thinking about college. And I think that's when it became really, really serious, because my parents are both civil servants. They don't have a lot of money. I was always very much aware of the idea that college had to be really worth it in order to go. There was a part of me that even wanted to defer for a year and kind of figure out exactly where I wanted to go, just because it was such a huge sacrifice I knew my parents were going to make in order for me to go to school. And so saying I'm going to be an actor and going to an art school, you really have to, like, I was like, it's all in if I'm going to do this. Like, if I'm going to go to a conservatory, I really want to go to a really good one, but B, I better really, really want to do this with my life. And it didn't feel like a hard decision. It was just like, yeah, this is it. And so I had always like dreamed of going to Juilliard. Since I was a child, I saw a PBS documentary with my parents, and I remember turning to them and going, I'm going to go there. It's like a 12-year-old. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then I got in. And from that point on, it's just, this is it. This is it. And in spite of the doubts that I've had in terms of just, you know, I guess it's kind of an amazing thing to know that this is a hard profession and have moments of, you know, insecurity for sure, but have this kind of underlying faith that it's been in me from the very beginning, and that I got to just keep on doing it. It's a part of my person. And
what was that experience like at Juilliard? Was that because for dreaming about it for so long, and then the excitement of getting there, but you know, because you hear stories about people really hating Juilliard too.
I know. I understand that. It's not for everyone. It's kind of like a boot camp. It feels like, looking back on it, it is this kind of exceptionally specific time. I can't imagine ever committing that much time or energy to this art in any other space. You know, it's just relentless. It's relentless. And so I understand why some people wouldn't like it. And I definitely had moments of being like, I don't want to go to school today. I want to hide. And what am I doing? And screw this place, you know, but it's just the best place ever. In my opinion, it was the best. To be able to like put that much effort and care and work and those hours, it just gave me this safety net of like, I put in the time, you know, I care. I know how much I care, partially because I went through that school and that program, on top of all the like invaluable experience and technique and tools that I took away from that school. I also just, the feeling of, I did that, I went through that, and kind of the safety net that gives me is invaluable, I think. But I understand why people don't like it. I mean, it's so specific, and I do feel like, you know, I've had some, you know, friends who felt like they were stripped of their identity a little bit, or whatever they had coming in, whatever that special thing was that got them admitted into the program. They felt like they, you know, might have gotten it beaten out of them a little bit. And I think that Juilliard is working hard to embrace those qualities a little bit more than maybe even like 20 years before I got there, when they had the cut system and when they were really old school, because there are some dusty parts that I think that they're evolving out of right now.
Did you leave there with a desire for the stage, and then it just happened that the work is on television and elsewhere, or was it that did you always have your eyes set on in the screen?
I think I just wanted to act in whatever form possible. I found that the life of the theater wasn't as compatible with my disposition as a person. I don't like staying up very late. I like waking up early and getting going. I don't like, to be honest, like the culture of going out to the bar and being with your castmates. You know, I don't drink really. I felt like it kind of amplified my anxieties a little bit, because I'd be waiting all day to do this performance, and I'd be just sitting there waiting all day, and I care a lot, and I had a lot of nerves, and then I would do the performance, and then I'd be wired until like 3 in the morning. I was like, I didn't feel healthy to me. And then I've done a few plays, and I haven't had, to be completely honest, I felt shame about this in the past. I haven't had the best experience doing plays, for the reasons I listed, and also just because I find myself so incredibly bound to the audience's experience. And I feel like there's a part of me that feels really tied to the energy of the room. And I more often than not feel like I'm pulled away from the truth of what I'm doing, because I can feel them. So I'm so sensitive.
Oh, that is so interesting. Yes.
So some people really feed off of that. And I found myself, I guess, being deterred by it or crippled. I felt kind of claustrophobic. So I don't.
That scares the hell out of me. Honestly, I've never heard anyone say that like that. And it makes me think, because everything you just said, I think is a lot like me. And so I'm thinking, like, when I just heard Ruth Wilson talk about this feeding off the audience. And I was like, I can definitely feel them. So that would be great. Now you're making me think that this could actually be, because I would definitely not have any life whatsoever if I was in a play. I mean, like, I would not be able to function at all throughout the whole day. I would have to go to the theater probably at like 9 a.m.
Yes. No, I'm not. That's exactly how I feel. I feel like the entire day, my life is just tied completely into the show, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. I found that my psyche did much better with this. And I also just have had so much opportunity with film to audition for film and TV, mostly television, as you noted. But
there are things that you have in your work that I think that are just instinctual, that the way you play with the camera. I mean, I'm seeing it. Do you have that relationship with the camera that I would have never thought of until I started talking to actors?
It's interesting. I've listened to you talk a good amount with actors about their relationship to the camera, like Christopher Abbott saying, that he did that dance, and James White, and talking about the actress who tries to remove the camera from her point of view.
Yes.
I've got to be honest. I don't feel like I have a really close relationships with camera men or camera women, camera operator. But I don't necessarily feel the camera as much as I feel a connection to the operator and a faith that they're going to take care of me. And so to answer your question more as honestly as I can, it's weird. I don't think of the camera as the camera. I think of the camera as the operator and whoever's taking care of it. And they're so important. I have an inordinate amount of respect for the camera operator on every project, and they become my friend. More often than not, we have like a relationship. Even on these shows where I only do an episodic, I try and kind of talk to them and have a rapport, because there is so much trust that you have to have that they're going to catch those things, and that they're going to, see the character as closely as you can see the character, or in their own kind of, add their own kind of sensibility to the character.
But wait, that's so interesting, because it seems like it's also important for the camera operator to like you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, I never thought of that.
You can end up not only just looking, bad, but also just for them not to have, a really great camera op wants to do their job as well as possible in spite of how they feel about you. Yes. But I think it always helps to have a rapport with everybody.
You've heard the show, maybe this might annoy you, like I'm sure it does some other listeners. I'm a little mystical about some things. I still think that it's important that the camera operator likes you, not just because of they're going to do their job right, but I believe in that. Like they want you to do good.
Yes. Yeah.
They want you to shine. Like they're going to always keep you in the frame properly. But it's more than that. At least that's what I believe. But I never thought about it until you just said it, because so having that instinctual thing of like wanting to have that rapport.
Yeah, it's just, that's part of what I love about it. It's like the band of mechanicals, everybody's going in from their own point of view to make this thing that's great. And they're working hard, not just, I totally am with you with that magical kind of mystical element that's beyond just trying to do your job, but it's like a soul thing. Mm-hmm. And it's part of what I really love about film is that we're all here to just do it. Like that there's this kind of communal like lifting that is like so special to me. And because of that, I really do love making friends with the entire crew. That's one of the things that's hard about this COVID thing is just being separated from them, because there are just protocol in place. You can't go just sit and talk to someone at the crafty table, and connect with the gaffer or, the camera op. You have to go and be in your separate space and put your visor on and your mask.
Oh my God. Oh wow. So that, knowing that, I'm going to watch, and I can't help but try and see, like, is there going to be an effect on the actual work because of this?
I wonder, but I will say I've showed up to a few days of Succession, and the work that people are doing is pretty phenomenal, because there is this feeling of like, we're so happy to be here.
We're back. Yeah.
Back. And we don't have, it's just like focus, we know that we have to get this done. We know that we only have this time. A lot of my scenes, I just am watching a lot, because Will is like kind of an observer in Succession of this family. And it's also just an incredible treat as an actor to watch these like heavy hitters just swing and like make these grand slams. And so I will say, in spite of all these protocols that I'm talking about, what I've seen so far, there's like still just stellar work going on. So I wonder if there's like a compensating.
Interesting.
Really stepping up.
That gives me hope.
Yeah.
So you come out of Juilliard and then you get Harry's Law. And this is David E. Kelley. And of course, now you're back on a David E. Kelley show. But how did you get into a big audition like that right out of school? Were you just right in the loop of things right away?
Yeah, this casting director, Ken, I believe, was in charge of it. It was so long ago, so forgive me if I got the casting director's name wrong. But he had brought me in a few days. He had brought me in a few times before for other parts. I think maybe one or two times. I believe it was at the tail end of my first pilot season or something that I booked that part. And I have really great agents. I was really blessed with great agents from the very beginning who kind of just like pounded down those doors for me. And so I think I'd auditioned for him maybe like once or twice before, and then he brought me in for this part. And I was really lucky that I was part of that pilot season grind that used to be there even more than it is now that we've gotten all these platforms with kind of a year-long pilot season. There used to be like 2 months where you would go and you're just like hustle and do like 3 auditions a day. And it was one of them. And I felt really lucky to be put into that room as well. I remember it being a big audition and having a lot of nerves. In fact, I had so much nerve in the audition that I remember I went in for the producers and my hands were shaking so bad, and I still did it. I went through it and I walked out and was like, oh God, that was the worst. My hands were like in this place where I could not control. I knew what was happening. I saw them moving. I saw my legs shaking. I saw my body just doing all these things. And I was like, well, I guess I have like literally no control over that. So I'm just going to submit. And it happened the whole way through. And I was like, oh my gosh. I walked out and I remember being like, I think I just let my nerves just like completely cock blocked me. And, and then I went home and I got this phone call and they're like, they want to test you for this part. But Bill D'Elia, who was the executive producer, does want to tell you, like, cool, be cool, calm, you're okay. Like, you know, you can do this and just try and handle the nerves, do whatever you can to just kind of cool it. And I remember just being like, okay, well, I guess the only way I can cool it.
That doesn't necessarily work all the time when somebody tells you to cool it.
I've gotten tools that help now, but I remember the only thing I could think of was, okay, I'm just going to drill it. I'm just going to drill it until it's even more molecularly in my body, to the point where because the thing was, I think part of the nerves came from, I'd been given this, it's pilot seasons. They give you this script like the day before, and it's this long legal monologue. And the nerves come with like the uncertainty that you know what you're doing, you know? And so I think there was something that was in me. It was like, okay, you just got to go home and you get this literally as like molecularly in your body as possible. And that is that connecting to your breath and, you know, maybe doing some like A posture, kind of like, you know, trying to make yourself big, which my dad actually gave me that tip of the power stance. And as silly as I look in the waiting room, I do it. Those three things were the things that I remember doing. I remember really clearly being like, okay, this is how I'm going to attack this. And it worked. I remember going in and I felt like, I remember flowing through it. I remember the casting director, Ken, giving me like a thumbs up from behind the camera after my test was over. And I was like, okay.
And I'm sure you've had other giant auditions since then. And is there a system you developed for yourself or an approach in general to auditioning for so long that you just have down now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first thing is just kind of like an inherent picture, visual. It's funny that Chris Abbott said something similar. I see it. I like see the character. I see who they are. And if I can nail it, like I do have this inherent feeling of like, I can do this, or okay, it's just going to be a struggle. Like, or this might take some more work. And so I see the person really clearly. And then I kind of, from that point on, I do a lot of script work where it's getting the lines down really, really well. So I have like a whole system where I kind of write out the thoughts, write out the words, and connect them, kind of try and make the jumps in my mind. Sorry, this is all kind of like, this is all kind of boring, but
I don't know who it's boring to, but it's not boring to me.
Okay. I try and make the jumps like really map out the thoughts, like what in this sentence leads to this sentence. And it's not just like the thought behind it, but it's also like, why am I saying this? Like, yes. What is like the exact, why am I saying this exact sentence after this sentence? So it's like kind of like this weird map. And I make it, so going that slowly really allows me to think through what I'm actually saying and like really absorb it. And that inherently allows you to kind of memorize it because you really thought the thoughts and you thought about why you're and then I have a weird hieroglyphic type of system where I draw above all the words, this kind of like code that I've created. Let me show you. Like, see how there's all these like weird symbols that I've kind of created that I associate with each of these words, and it slows me down even more.
Yeah. And no one can ever read it. That's what's great.
No one can. No one can ever read it. And it makes sense to no one but me. And some of them I'm like, why did I get this visual? Why did I create this drawing for that word? But it works for me. And I've kind of like created this whole system, and that slows it down even more. And then I just really drill it. And if I need help with it, I'll go to my partner. My boyfriend is a director, and he's really good at kind of helping me see things beyond what I'm initially seeing, if there's something I'm missing. And I also have like really incredible parents that would drill the shit out of stuff with me, you know, up until recently. In fact, they would come out for pilot seasons some years and just run lines with me, like sacrifice a week. It's pretty amazing. Come out and stay with me and just drill lines with me all night long. And
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, the amount of sacrifice my friends and family have put into my career is pretty remarkable.
And do you do a similar thing when you actually have the role and are preparing for the part?
Yeah, I do that and then a bunch more. Mm-hmm.
And just tell me a little bit about a bunch more, like besides general research of.
Yeah, I mean, it usually depends on the character. I will say the one thing that I always have is the kind of visualization of the character, how they kind of imagining, and it comes to me in this kind of like, this is where the woo-woo magic part comes in that you mentioned. It almost feels like I've thought a lot about why I want to act, and like what's besides me just like feeling like, oh, it's something that I could do, or that I've lived my whole life doing it. Like, why do I want to do this? And I do feel like kind of this is where it gets a little woo-woo, but just bear with me. I do feel like I'm giving, like there's like a soul that I'm being given, and that my job is to give it a space to live without judgment and just completely as they are. And I see them. I like really do visualize how they talk, how they move, like what their essence is. And then, you know, things are added on, like the costume designer will bring another aspect onto her, or the scripts will add more and more, you know, like you said, roots to the character, and the director will help guide me. But there is like an initial visual understanding, imaginary understanding of who I'm inhabiting, I guess. To not sound too, I don't want to sound too precious, but that is just how it comes to me a little bit.
This is fascinating to me but I want to know, are you actually picturing you?
It's me, but not me. It's like my like this meat package that I've been given, this like meaty carrier, but with like a different soul, like a different inside.
So that part is so super important to you, because if you don't have the time to do this, to actually build that visual and whatever, I'm going to use the wrong words, but just like step into that in a way, then how lost are you? Like, is this just, have you ever had that happen where you had to do something and you weren't able to confidently do that process?
I've had an experience where I thought I had it. I thought I had her. I thought I understood her. And it was a play. And the further I got in, the more lost I felt. Like, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was that I like, you know, was too attached to things outside of my own process. To be completely frank, I was doing a play, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was directing it. And it was a really dark play, and I was playing this woman who was pretty expired, drug addicted, partier, had lost kind of any, a great deal of her attachment to life and living. And I think I auditioned with something that I felt really clear about. And I even flew out here. I was in LA. I flew out for the callback. I had it with Phil. And the further I got along into the process, the more lost I felt. And, you know, it was also, he was going through a really hard time. It was like right before he passed. And he was my idol. And I was really attached to what he thought of me as a person, what he thought of me as an actor, his highs, his lows, his approval. And I was so attached that, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be attached to the director's idea or the director's vision, but I was like really like a monkey just trying to dance and do whatever, you know, whatever it took. And I lost sight, I think, who she was became more convoluted. And I also just didn't have any confidence. I lost all my confidence. So that was an experience that was really, really hard and actually like took me out of theater for a while. I was like, I don't know if I want to do another play. I was also just living as close. I was trying to access her because, like I said, as I went further into the process, I think what I realized, the part that I, you know, didn't have in the beginning was just how much darkness she was living with and how much she was carrying. And I didn't know how to access it, you know.
And you know, have you been able to, not just to help you deal with it, but for a reality here, it's his fault, you know, that you didn't get there. I believe that it's
Phil's fault.
It's the director's fault. It's Phil. I mean, have you been able to do that? Have you been able to come to that? Because I firmly believe that, especially when he's that skilled. I mean, having talked to so many people who, and like you're saying, he was probably in something in his life, you know, that wasn't able to do that. But I believe it is the director's fault. And if somebody is as good as you, I mean, it's either the director's fault because they're casting the wrong person, the person who's not good. But we all know that you are good. So now we know for sure it's the director's fault.
I think that's, you know, I've really gone through a mental obstacle course with this whole experience. I had so much shame about it. I remember this because part of what I do often is listen to different actors that I respect, which is part of why I'm like super into your podcast, talk about their process and how, you know, their different experiences. And I remember listening to a Cate Blanchett podcast where she was just talking about how being on stage is like the best. It's like the best muscle exercise for being an actor. And I've constantly run up again. I remember, I mean, that experience in particular, I felt like so much shame about how hard that experience was for me and how I didn't do it and I didn't get there. And I think to put it all on Phil would be, would be not accurate just because there was so much mental stuff. I think that my neuroses also really got in my way. It really did. And it wasn't just him. And also that I was so attached to him and his ideas and my trust in him and who he was. And I felt like I was just constantly trying to, you know, do it for him. Instead of really like going into the work, I was just going to him, which is my fault.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And that can be a peril that people are facing, you know, right now somewhere with other people, you know, with a director. But it's so hard because you have to have that trust though too. It's you know, it's almost like you need that trust. So but if it goes too far, like you're saying, then there's a problem. So that just adds another point of.
It's a tricky balance finding like, I actually don't think, you know, this idea of like wanting to, you know, I think you've talked about it on other podcasts, this idea of like wanting people to like you or wanting the director to like you or wanting to do good for, and I actually don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing. Like I want my function as an actor is to accommodate their vision of what's happening, is to function within their dream. And I'm responsible for my character, and my character, like everything that I'm bringing, but I also want to be a part of their idea. I'm not the director, I'm the actor. And so there is like a certain part of like, I want you to be pleased. I want you to be happy, And so it's like a weird balance to find the happy place between like wanting to serve your part in this dream and also to stay true and grounded and not just be looking, but have some sort of roots, like you said, core like understanding that you carry with you into that. And so I just try and hold both things as much as I can. And sometimes the balance gets thrown.
Yes. When you do all that work that you do in the visualization and that kind of work, and how do you keep that going on the set? What helps you when you're there to stay in that or to keep that? Is there a certain environment that needs to have to happen, or like you already talked about having that relationship with people that probably helps?
That's where I go. I have the trust that I did all that work, and that it's there as much as it can be, like that I did everything that I could. And then now it's my job to come to my partners, like be with my partners. And so I've been really lucky to work with like some really awesome actors like Brendan Gleeson and Brian Cox and Alan Ruck, and on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Rachel Brosnahan, and I get to go to them and find that dance. And that's the next step, is like being there with them and kind of like tapping into the relationship with them and the crew and the director. And it's like a whole new awesome part of the whole thing. So I would say like all the homework, it's like, that's homework. And I don't have to like carry it with me and hold it in front of my face and block out everyone else and get into the spot that I feel like I'm ready to go. It's like, I did the homework. I trust that. I have faith that I did it. And now I can just be open to like this, whatever it is. And I don't feel, some people feel like they need quiet or a certain vibe or I think the only thing that I would be a little bit deterred by on set is like those people that just walk away when their coverage is over and just put a stand-in in. I'm like, what? It's so baffling to me. I'm like, what? Don't you want to be here? Like, not.
Does this happen a lot?
I've only had it happen once at the very beginning of my like career, and it was so weird. I was just shocked. And but I hear about it all the time. I just talked to a friend who had a job, and the lead actress, who's like a very well-known actress that I respect, that I think is really a great actress, she would go away when it was not on her.
I cannot. I don't want to even know who it is, because I will shoot her.
I know, and it's actually twice now. Not just her. Another friend just did a movie, and same thing happened with another actor. They took a really long time getting out of their trailer, which is another thing. I'm like, if anything, I'm like that person that like is a little too like has to like check myself. Like, am I a little too hovering at Video Village? Cause I like love watching. And so the idea of like not coming out of your trailer, it's just like, it's so beyond my like realm of understanding. I don't get it. So the idea of those two things, where it's just like acting hygiene, like where it's really like, oof, bad behavior in my opinion, and just such a disservice. I don't know how people get away with it. Aside from that, I don't feel like I have a certain like energy that I need to be in, or like, space that I need to be in. I really just want to be open to like whatever people bring, whatever my like teammates bring.
Yeah, I agree with you about that person and the hygiene. But do you think we're being too judgmental in that person is successful? And I don't just mean like they are a star or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We like what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have to do that, could it be like they're intimidated? Although this makes no sense. They're intimidated by the person who comes with all their passion to play this little role opposite them, and they can't even be in the scene with them. Like, what if it's that? What if it's that they come out of the trailer because they're scared?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm also like, grow up, kind of. I know that sounds like dickish of me, but I just am like, that's part of this job. And also like, I get a little bit upset at the idea of someone having to honor their own personal process over being a team player.
There we go. Okay, good.
Like,
right.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, when you're compromising that guy who shows up, like that guy who shows up for his like 2 lines and he's like, whatever, that passion that you just described. And he's like super excited to be there. And then you pull away his scene partner, like the person that he's there to do the work with. And you just step out and send in another, like a stand-in who's like, just not the character. He's not, it just feels like, selfish. And maybe I am like a little overcritical or overjudgmental. I even feel that way about people who go so far into being method that they compromise the other people in the scene, feeling like we're in this together. Like, that's a huge part of this to me, is that I want to feel connected and I want to be open to my scene partner and I want to feel like generous with them and I want to like give them everything I possibly can. Like, that's like a huge part of the work is the process. Like, it's not just the end game. It's like what the feeling that we have while we're doing it. And so to take that away from someone, it just feels, to take that away from your teammate because you feel like, I can't handle this. It's like, then don't be an actor, because it's all about connecting and telling the story with other people. Like, how,
yes.
Yes. And the getting out of the trailer thing, unless you're having a huge anxiety attack, which I guess happens, and that would be relayed, I do feel like there is like there's some sensitivity to people having their own like actual mental health stuff going on. But if it's just like, I can't be bothered to get out here on time or some sort of power trip, it's just like, it's inexcusable to me.
Thank you. I was looking for a justification for my continued anger of this person who I don't know, who I'm imagining.
No, I try and I'm also like, I'm like that. I try and kind of empathize and put myself in their shoes. I really do think it's like, when we're getting into that stuff, it's just, it feels like it's a matter of ego and,
yes.
And also can't be bothered, or like laziness to me. Like, I want to go, I don't want to do the work. And it's like,
it's a team sport. It's a team sport.
Yes.
It's a team sport.
And that should be a joyful thing.
Yes.
That should be a chore for you.
Again, the director's fault. No, you can't leave.
No. I know. I've thought about that. I've asked my friends, these 2 people that brought their anecdotal stories to me about these actors. I was like, where is the director? Because there is no way on Succession, that any of those actors would want to leave.
Boom.
They want to be there.
Best actors in the game.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But it would never be tolerated. That's just, it's like out of the realm of possibility that would even be tolerated. It wouldn't happen. So, and these are on like, successful shows, big movies. It's like, I don't get it.
Speaking of directors, what is it that you need? You're so prepared when you come. Mm-hmm. You have your process down, but what is it that you need typically from this person on the set in production, if you could speak to it?
I there's a list of things that I would like, or that I would love, or that would be appreciated, but I've like grown to understand that I've got to be flexible, and that there are all different kinds of directors with all different kinds of ways of directing, and that part of my job is to accommodate those different kinds of direction. I think cruelty is the only thing that I would have a hard time with. I haven't run into that. So, you know, I just was listening to Deborah Messing telling a story about a director like saying like, oh, can we get a plastic surgeon in to change, to like give this woman a nose job in the next 20 minutes? And she was telling it like, you know, it was a story from, I think, like the 90s. And I cannot imagine someone saying something like that these days. But that would be like something that I would be like, and absolutely not. Like, we don't talk to people like that, you know? That kind of behavior, like just crummy human behavior. But in terms of, you know, there are some directors that want to talk it out. And I love that. And there are some directors that just want to see what you bring and give a little adjustment here and there. And I like that too. And there are directors that like need a certain pace and certain style. And I'm down for that too. Like I like the whole color box of directors, and it's exciting to try on, you know, different styles of working, you know, so I'm into that. I think the only thing I wouldn't be into is someone being a dick. But aside from that, you know, I've really enjoyed working with all different kinds of directors. And if I need something, like for instance, on Miss Maisel, my character talks very, very fast and says stream of conscious, and like there's a pace, and they also do these incredibly long shots that are uninterrupted. And so there is this pressure of, if I mess up my line, that also messes up Tony Shalhoub's line and Rachel Brosnahan. Like everything that they just did is completely, because I ruined this like really long flow. And so when I'm on that set, there is a different, I'm not normally like this, but I have to just step back between takes and either go to the script supervisor and say, would you mind just like drilling these with me? Or just sitting and running it with myself. And I have to be in that little bubble in order to get to the place where I feel like, okay, when this comes, I'm ready to like, just let it be more spontaneous and let these things, like, you know, whatever the magic is, come and not be deterred by my nerves or you know, thinking about the lines. I have to go to that place, but I would never expect everybody else to go to that place with me.
You know, I think so highly of my own tastes. You know, I'm so egotistical about what I like. You know, I'm like, oh, if I like her, then she is great. You know, because there was no reason for me to like her. You know, like I was saying, I get lost in the show or the movie or whatever, and I get lost in these people. That's why it's interesting that you can have the roots, but I can be taken out and want to look you up. And I think that thing is that you have a star quality, which is the word star. It just sounds so against everything that I'm about, especially with the show and everything. But I think that there is something about that. So what I'm saying is, I think you're about to pop. Okay.
Well, I hope you're right.
Is this on your mind? Like, are your people looking for things that is going to take you to this next level because they know that you're on the verge of that? Are you looking for things like that? Are you turning down certain things because it's not in that next step and stuff like that?
You know what? This is all very kind. I'm very flattered. You know, I have to say, is this on my mind? First of all, I have big dreams. I have big ambitions. I have hunger, really strong hunger to do do more, more, whatever that might be. There is like a part of me that would love to be like to carry a story, to really carry a story and have that responsibility and take it on. I would love that. It's there. It's like, there is a hope. There's also a trust in that this is going the way it's supposed to go, that I have to lean back on when I do feel like restless, or like, I hope this happens, or insecure, or will it ever happen? Or am I banging on a door that's not going to open? All these things. I have to have like a faith that this is happening the way that it should. And that, and a gratitude for these like incredible parts that I have been given. In terms of like a plan that I've talked about with my manager or my agent, no, there hasn't been. There has been I have expressed, a desire to work as much as possible. And I do pass on things, but not very much, not very often. So I guess I hope that answers your question. Maybe there should be more of a game plan. Maybe there should be more of like seeking out. But right now I'm on this show that I'm a series regular at Succession. I was promoted into being a series regular. And I'm so grateful to be on that show. I'm so excited to see what happens with the season and where Willa goes. And I'm just going to really work hard at the things that are here. Like, I'm put my head down and just work my butt off and have faith that if I keep my head down and I keep on working hard, that things will happen the way that they're supposed to happen, and that I'm taken care of. And then I have to trust that I'm taken care of, because like agents and managers, it is a mysterious thing. Like, I love both my agent and manager. They really do, work hard for me, but there also is like a certain level of trust that I don't see what's happening behind closed doors, but that they are hustling for me. And my job is just to work on what's in front of me. Like, whether it be this audition, whether it be this show, like, just work hard and know that, and enjoy the ride and be grateful, and what's coming for you is coming for you,
Justine Lupe, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was so flattered to be like, I saw this roster with like my favorite actors, and I'm telling you, I was like, what? I'm like, what did he see? I'm like, I was just so flattered to be like in that list with some of the people that I admire the most. So I really appreciate you bringing me on.
You're another leaf on that tree.
Thank you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.